Effective Instructional Strategies, Tootling, by Hannah Daly. What is tootling? Tootling is a positive behavior intervention strategy that is fairly new. It is designed to help foster classrooms that focus more on positivity and less on negativity. It is called tootling because it is supposed to be the opposite of tattling, where in tattling you point out someone performing a negative behavior. Tootling is supposed to be the reporting of pro-social behaviors, and this reporting is done by their peers. It is supposed to help increase positive peer pressure so that other students will want to perform those pro-social behaviors, and it's also supposed to help decrease disruptive behaviors by encouraging students to act accordingly. How do you implement tootling? I've broken up the implementation of tootling into two separate categories: what you want to do on Introduction Day, and then the days following. On Introduction Day, the one thing you are going to want to have done prior is to figure out your behavior baseline. And that is going to be data that you've collected to recognize a number of negative occurrences of behavior that have been happening in your class, and having that data so that then after the implementation of tootling, you can refer back and see how effective tootling has been in your class. Then you are going to want to bring the idea of tootling to your classroom and introduce your students to the idea of tattling versus tootling, and how tattling is the reporting of negative behaviors, and tootling is going to be the reporting of the students of positive behaviors that they are seeing in the classroom. And then you are going to want to give criteria of what a tootle should look like. So a tootle should contain who's writing it, what the person was doing that was good, and then for whom they are writing it about. Then you're going to want to show them or give them some examples of good tootles. So showing them that, Sarah helped me pick up my books when I dropped them in class, and then where they sign their names, and kind of going over what that format looks like and what aspects are important and why that tootle is a good tootle. Then you're going to want to show your students what they are going to write a tootle on. So it's up to you whether you want to create a special tootle ticket that clearly defines each individual component they need to include, or if you want to go as simple as using an index card. Either way works, it's all up to your preference. And you are also going to want to highlight where the tootle should be turned into. So you're going to want to designate an area or a box, something where they are going to turn those tootles in, and emphasize that this is where they go, and to make sure that any tootles they want to be recorded should go in this container. And then you're going to want to introduce the idea of the tootling goal. And so telling them that we are going to try to reach this goal of, say, 100 tootles. And then show them whatever you want to call it, but a charting method in which you are going to keep track of how many tootles the class has been doing, and tell them why they want to reach those goals of tootles by telling them the types of incentives that they are able to earn. And then you are free to begin tootling. There are some things you are going to want to do. At the beginning of every day, until students get into the routine of tootling, you are going to want to remind students that all day, or whatever time period you designate, that they are going to want to be looking for those positive behaviors, and that they should be working to write down their tootles. Then, at the end of the day, you are going to want to count up the daily total of tootles, and read aloud any tootles that you want, and record the progress towards the incentive that they have made. Once the incentive has been reached, you are going to want to give the students a day off from tootling, just to kind of clear their heads so it doesn't get old. And then begin again with a newer, slightly higher goal of tootles that they want to reach. And also, as you are implementing tootling, you are going to want to start collecting data to track the progress and hopefully the decrease of disruptive behaviors that are occurring in your classroom. In the days following, hello class. So today we are going to start something called tootling. So everybody's heard of tattling. Tattling is when you tell on someone for doing something they're not supposed to be doing. So tootling is the exact opposite. Tootling is when you tell and you shout someone out for doing something that they are supposed to be doing. So we're just kind of giving them a little pat on the back for doing exactly what they're supposed to, or being super extra kind or very helpful. So now that we know what tootling is, we are going to, when we start doing tootling in our classroom, we are going to be using index cards to write down our toodles so that we can share them with the class. So, how do we write a toodle? To write a toodle, we need to include 3 things. We need to include who, the name of the classmate, who that we noticed doing something super helpful, kind, or what they were supposed to be doing. We need to say what they did, so were they helping clean up after lunch? Or were they helping someone who dropped their books? And then we need to include for whom. So is this person helping you, or were they helping another classmate? Were they helping the teacher? We want to know who they were being helpful or kind to. Then, so that's what our toodle looks like. And that's what we want to write it down. So, as an example of a good toodle, here's one. Sarah helped John clean up the lunchroom even though it wasn't her job. So this is a really good toodle because it has all 3 of our parts. It has our who, Sarah, who she did the action for, helped John, and then what she did, which was helped clean up the lunchroom even though it wasn't her job. So that is a wonderful toodle. So now that we've heard an example of a really good toodle, we are going to start doing this in our classroom, which is going to be so much fun. So we are going to be, like I said, writing our toodles on index cards. And then I have this super fun mug, and this is where you guys are going to fold up and put your toodles into. Now, our toodles, you're going to be doing it any time during the day when you see someone acting super helpful or kind. And you're going to just write down what you saw on the index card, fold it up, and then put it into our mug. But you're going to want to make sure that you are super quiet and not disruptive when you go and submit your toodle into the mug. And then, for our tootling, we have what we are going to call our tootling goal. Our goal is we are going to try to toodle 100 times. So, in order to keep track of how often we are tootling, in my special book, I'm going to keep track of how many toodles we do each day. And when I write down how many toodles we're doing each day, I'm going to write it on our big anchor chart so that we all know how many more toodles we need to reach our goal. And once we reach our goal, we're going to get an extra special prize of going out to recess 10 minutes early, just to make sure that you guys are noticing and keeping an eye out for those awesome behaviors that our classmates are doing. So, that is tootling, and we are going to get started as soon as possible. In this next video, it is going to be modeling tootling in a classroom. This video shows how a student should record their toodles, turn them in, and then how the teacher should recognize those toodles in some form or fashion in front of the class.
Are taught to catch each other performing pro-social behaviors. Their peer then writes the behavior on a card, which they give to their teachers. This method for reporting pro-social behaviors helps to alter the occurrences of appropriate and inappropriate behaviors. The teacher may witness the impact positive peer pressure can have on the classroom.
This final video shows what Tootling looks like as a product. In this video, they go and they show all of the different tootles that have been recorded by students and teachers alike and how they are displaying them within their school. Variations and considerations when tootling. Just like there is not one way to teach, there is not just one way to tootle. These are a couple different ways to alter tootling to help it fit your classroom better. In some classrooms, instead of just reading aloud tootles, the teacher may want to post tootles on a bulletin board or somewhere else in their classroom for the students to see. Another way to recognize the tootles could be to give the tootles where they are written down to the students that they were written about as a reminder of the good behaviors that they show. You may also choose to allow for tootles to be verbally expressed, and so students may write down a tootle on an index card and then read it aloud at, say, a morning meeting or an afternoon meeting. Also, if you're finding that tootling is disruptive in your classroom, you may give a time limit for when tootles can occur. So, if you don't want it to interrupt instruction time, you may tell students to only look for tootling like in reading or math. And this could also be if you are having an abnormally great amount of disruptive behaviors occurring only in one subject. In some classrooms, you may also want to limit the number of tootles if your class is getting competitive, to encourage students to look for good quality ways that people are demonstrating pro-social behaviors. And also, you are going to want to make sure that the tootles that are being submitted are up to criteria. And so if someone submits a tootle that doesn't quite meet the criteria, say they forget to write down whom did the behavior, then you may say, wow, this is a good start of a tootle, and then say how they can maybe fix it. To tootle or not to tootle? After this presentation, you may be wondering, why should tootling be implemented into a classroom? I found a research article called Effects of Class-Wide Positive Peer Tootling to Reduce the Disruptive Classroom Behaviors of Elementary Students with and Without Disabilities. And there were several points that were made that, in my opinion, sway to tootling should most definitely be included in classrooms. The research and results of the study that was done showed that the implementation of tootling significantly decreased disruptive behaviors, that students were shown to encourage more demonstration of pro-social behaviors, that positive peer pressure, and by the end of the study, every student had tootled. Overall, this encouraged a much more positive atmosphere for all students involved, whether they had a disability or did not have a disability. But using tootling in the classroom would be extremely beneficial for a student who had a disability. A lot of times, students with disabilities experience a lot of negativity directed towards them. Sometimes they can't control their behaviors due to their disability. And so encouraging tootling would encourage the students around them to look for the positive things that they are doing and the positive contributions that they make to the classroom, which would help students to see that the students with disabilities have a very positive impact in their classroom. And also, it would really help to boost the confidence of a student with a disability, because with all that negativity that may be directed towards them, this would be a positive interaction that they would be able to have with their classmates. So I think this would only bring benefits to a student with a disability. And I also think it could serve as a really beneficial strategy to implement of students who do not have a disability. I think tootling is a great strategy to just overall create a more accepting and positive based classroom for all.